Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Meridian, watching the stars through the main window. The ship had been traveling through deep space for 3 months now. Their mission was simple: explore new star systems and look for signs of life. So far, they had found nothing but empty planets and cold rocks floating in space. Jake was tired. His crew was tired too. Dr. Lisa Grant spent most of her time in the science lab, studying samples from dead worlds. Commander Ryan Blake kept the ship's weapons ready, even though they had never seen another living thing out here. Emma Rodriguez sat at her communication station, listening to the empty silence of space. "Captain?" Emma called out suddenly. Her voice was excited. "I'm getting something strange on the long-range communications." Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of something?" "It's not coming from Earth. The signal is much stronger than anything we've ever received before. And Captain... Emma paused, checking her instruments again. "It's not in any human language." The bridge went quiet. Dr. Grant looked up from her tablet. Commander Blake stepped closer to the communication station. In all their years of space travel, humans had never found proof of alien life. They had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. "Can you clean up the signal?" Jake asked. Emma worked at her controls for several minutes. Static filled the bridge speakers, then slowly cleared. What they heard next changed everything. They thought they knew about the galaxy. The voice was not human, but somehow the ship's computer was translating it into English. The alien speakers sounded desperate, almost panicked. "This is Admiral Zethkri of the Galactic Council. We are sending this message to all systems in the Outer Rim. Our situation is critical. The ancient enemy has returned. The Devourers have awakened from the galactic core." Jake felt his blood go cold. Dr. Grant dropped her tablet. The alien voice continued. "We have lost 3 major battles. Entire star systems are being consumed. Billions of lives have been lost. Our combined fleets cannot stop them. The Devourers use technology we do not understand. They phase in and out of normal space. Our weapons pass right through their ships." Commander Blake stepped forward. "Captain, this could be a trick. We don't know anything about these aliens." Jake held up his hand for silence. The transmission was still playing. "The enemy converts entire planets into energy. They strip away everything: the atmosphere, the oceans, even the rock itself. Worlds that took millions of years to develop are gone in days. We estimate that at their current rate of expansion, they will reach the outer systems within 6 months." Dr. Grant picked up her tablet and began taking notes. "If this is real, we're talking about something that can destroy planets. That's beyond anything humans have ever imagined." The alien admiral's voice grew more desperate. "We have tried everything. Energy shields, plasma weapons, quantum torpedoes. Nothing works. When they phase through our defenses, our ships are helpless. We have been forced to abandon system after system. The Council is meeting at Kepler Station to discuss our final options." Emma looked at Jake. "Captain, they're asking for help from anyone who can hear this message. Our military doctrine has always focused on preserving our forces." The transmission continued. "We retreat when faced with superior firepower. We regroup and attack when we have the advantage. But the Devourers give us no time to regroup. They attack without stopping. They show no mercy." Commander Blake shook his head. "These aliens sound like they've never fought a real war. What kind of military retreats every time things get difficult?" Jake was thinking the same thing. Human military history was full of desperate last stands, of soldiers who fought even when victory was impossible. These aliens seemed to run away the moment they faced real danger. "This is our final transmission on this frequency," Admiral Zethkri said. "If there are any civilizations out there who can help us, please respond. We are willing to share our technology, our resources, anything you need. The alternative is the complete destruction of all life in the galaxy." The transmission ended. The bridge fell silent again. Jake looked at his crew. They all understood what they had just heard. Somewhere out there, an alien civilization was fighting for its life against an enemy that could destroy planets. Dr. Grant was the first to speak. "Captain, we need to analyze this data. If this is real, we're looking at technology that's far beyond anything on Earth." Emma checked her instruments. The signal came from the direction of the Kepler Nebula. "That's about 2 weeks away at maximum speed." Commander Blake crossed his arms. "Captain, Earth's policy is clear. We don't interfere with alien politics. We observe and report. That's it." Jake stared out at the stars. He thought about Earth. So far away and so small compared to the galaxy. He thought about the alien admiral's voice, filled with fear and desperation. He thought about planets being stripped bare, billions of lives lost. "Emma, open a channel to Earth Command," Jake said finally. "Sir, it will take 4 hours for the message to reach Earth, and 4 more hours for a reply," Emma warned. "I know." Jake turned to face his crew. "But first, we're going to Kepler Station." Commander Blake stepped forward. "Captain, that's a direct violation of our orders." "Our orders were to explore and make contact with alien life if we found it," Jake replied. "Well, we found it, and it's asking for our help." Dr. Grant looked worried. "Captain, we don't know anything about these devourers. We don't know if our weapons can hurt them. We don't even know if these aliens are telling the truth." Jake walked back to his captain's chair and sat down. "Maybe not, but I know one thing these aliens don't seem to understand." "What's that, sir?" Emma asked. Jake looked at each member of his crew. "Sometimes you don't run away from a fight. Sometimes you run toward it." He pressed the button on his chair that connected him to the entire ship. "All hands, this is the captain. We've just received a distress call from an alien civilization. They're under attack by something called the Devourers. We're changing course for Kepler Station. I know this isn't what we signed up for, but sometimes the mission changes. Sometimes you have to do what's right, not what's easy." Jake looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, aliens were dying because they didn't know how to fight a war. They retreated when they should have attacked. They preserved their forces when they should have spent them. "Emma, set course for Kepler Station. Maximum speed." "Yes, sir." As the Meridian turned toward the distant nebula, Jake wondered what they would find there. He wondered if humans could really make a difference against an enemy that could destroy planets. But most of all, he wondered if the galaxy was ready to learn what happened when you asked humans for help. The universe was desperate. Humanity was about to answer. 2 weeks later, the Meridian arrived at Kepler Station. Jake had never seen anything like it. The station was huge, bigger than any human city. It looked like a giant metal flower floating in space, with dozens of arms reaching out in all directions. Ships from different alien races were docked at various ports. Each ship looked completely different from the others. "My God," Dr. Grant whispered as she stared at the main screen. "Look at the size of those vessels." The alien ships were beautiful in a way that human ships were not. They had smooth curves and glowing energy fields around them. Some looked like they were made of crystal. Others seemed to be alive, with surfaces that moved like skin. All of them were much larger than the Meridian. Emma was trying to establish communication with the station. "Captain, they're asking us to identify ourselves. I don't think they've ever seen a human ship before. Tell them we're here to help with the Devourer problem," Jake said. A few minutes later, Emma received a response. "They're giving us permission to dock. Bay 47. They sound ... surprised." As the Meridian moved closer to the station, Commander Blake studied the alien ships through his tactical scanner. "Captain, these vessels are armed with weapons I can't even identify. Energy cannons, plasma launchers, something that looks like it bends space itself." "Are they targeting us?" Jake asked. "No, sir. But if they wanted to destroy us, we wouldn't even see it coming. The docking process was strange. The station's computers took control of the Meridian and guided it into the docking bay without any human input. Jake didn't like giving up control of his ship, but he had no choice. When they stepped off the ship, Jake got his first look at real aliens. The docking bay was full of them. Tall, thin creatures with blue skin and 4 arms. Short, round beings that seemed to be made of living metal. Others that looked like walking plants. All of them stopped what they were doing to stare at the humans. A group of official-looking aliens approached them. The leader was tall and elegant, with pale silver skin and large black eyes. When he spoke, a small device on his chest translated his words into English. "I am Counselor Vexai of the Silicon Collective. You are the humans, yes? We received your message. We are curious about your offer to help." Jake stepped forward. "I'm Captain Morrison. This is my crew. We heard your distress call about the Counselor Vexai's expression was hard to read. "Captain Morrison, we appreciate your concern, but perhaps you do not understand the scale of this threat. The Devourers have destroyed 17 star systems in the past month. Our most advanced fleets have been unable to stop them." Dr. Grant spoke up. "We'd like to examine the tactical data from your battles. Maybe we can find something you missed." Another alien stepped forward. This one was shorter and stockier, with rough gray skin and glowing red eyes. "I am General Morthic of the Warrior Clans. Human, your species is unknown to us. You have no space fleet. You have no advanced weapons. What could you possibly offer?" Commander Blake's jaw tightened. Jake could see his tactical officer was getting angry at the alien's dismissive tone. "We offer a different perspective," Jake said calmly. "Sometimes an outsider can see things that you can't." The aliens looked at each other. Finally, Counselor Vexai nodded. "Very well, we will show you the tactical data. But first, you must understand, we are preparing for evacuation. The Council has decided that Kepler Station cannot be defended." They were led through corridors filled with aliens packing equipment and loading ships. Everyone moved with quiet efficiency, but Jake could sense the fear underneath. These people were running away. The war room was a large circular chamber with a holographic display in the center. Admiral Zethkri, the alien who had sent the distress call, was waiting for them. He was tall and thin, with blue-green skin and 3 eyes. "So these are the humans," Admiral Zethkri said. "I must admit, you are not what I expected." "What did you expect?" Emma asked. "Something more, ... impressive. Your ship is very small. Your weapons are primitive chemical explosives. Your technology is at least 1,000 years behind ours." Dr. Grant stepped closer to the holographic display. It showed the recent battles with the Devourers. The enemy ships were dark and twisted, like metal that had been melted and reformed into nightmare shapes. "Tell us about their phasing ability," she said. Admiral Zethkri activated the display. "Watch this recording from the Battle of Proxima 7. The hologram showed a massive space battle. The alien ships fired energy beams and missiles at the Devourer fleet. For a few seconds, it looked like the aliens were winning. Then the Devourer ships seemed to flicker and become transparent. The alien weapons passed right through them. They can phase in and out of normal space-time," Admiral Zethkri explained. "When they are phased, our weapons cannot touch them, but they can still attack us." Commander Blake studied the display carefully. "What happens when they attack? Do they have to come back into normal space?" "Yes, but only for a few seconds. Not enough time for us to target them effectively." Dr. Grant was taking notes on her tablet. "What about area effect weapons? Nuclear explosives? Anything that damages a wide area instead of a specific target?" General Morthic looked confused. "Nuclear explosives? Those are incredibly primitive weapons. They cause massive radiation contamination. No civilized military uses them." Jake exchanged a look with Commander Blake. On Earth, nuclear weapons were among the most powerful tools in their arsenal. What about ramming attacks? Commander Blake asked. Physical collision with enemy ships. The aliens looked shocked. Admiral Zethkri's 3 eyes went wide. Commander, such tactics would result in the complete destruction of our own vessels. We would lose valuable ships and trained crews. But would it hurt the Devourers? Blake pressed. Well, yes, probably. But the cost would be unacceptable. Jake was beginning to understand the problem. These aliens fought wars like chess games. They moved carefully, protected their pieces, and retreated when they faced losses. It was logical, but it wasn't working against an enemy that could destroy planets. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red. Admiral Zethkri rushed to a communication panel. Report, he barked. Sir, we have multiple Devourer contacts approaching the system. ETA, 20 minutes. The war room erupted in controlled panic. Aliens rushed to their stations, calling out orders and status reports. On the main display, Jake could see the approaching enemy fleet. Dozens of the twisted black ships, moving faster than anything human technology could match. All ships, begin. Evacuation procedures, Admiral Zethkri ordered. We cannot defend against this many enemies. Wait, Jake said. You're just going to run away. Counselor Vexai turned to him. Captain Morrison, this station houses over 2 million beings. We cannot risk their lives in a battle we cannot win. But if you run every time they attack, you'll never win any battle. General Morthic's red eyes flashed with anger. Human, you know nothing of war. We preserve our forces to fight another day. On Earth, we call that cowardice. Commander Blake said quietly. The alien general stepped toward Blake, his hands clenching into fists. But before he could respond, the station shook violently. The Devourers had arrived early. On the main screen, Jake watched as the alien defense fleet moved to intercept the attackers. The ships formed neat formations and began firing their advanced weapons. For a moment, it looked like they might hold their own. Then the Devourer ships phased. The alien weapons passed harmlessly through empty space. The enemy reappeared behind the defense fleet and opened fire. Alien ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. All ships, fall back to secondary positions. Admiral Zethkri ordered. Jake watched the alien fleet retreat, abandoning the outer defense platforms. Thousands of station personnel were still on those platforms, trying to evacuate. Emma, get us back to the ship, Jake said. Captain, the Meridian's weapons won't even scratch those Devourer ships, Dr. Grant protested. Maybe not, but we're not running away. As they rushed through the corridors toward the docking bay, they could hear the battle raging outside. The station shook again and again as Devourer weapons found their targets. Emergency crews ran past them, heading for the evacuation ships. When they reached the Meridian, Jake went straight to the bridge. On the main screen, he could see the battle was going badly for the aliens. The Devourer ships were systematically destroying the defense platforms. The alien fleet kept falling back, trying to preserve their forces. Captain, Emma said, the evacuation ships are requesting escort to the jump point. Jake looked at his crew. Dr. Grant was pale but determined. Commander Blake's hands were already moving over his weapon controls. Emma was ready at her communication station. Emma, tell the evacuation ships we'll cover their retreat. Blake, charge all weapons. Grant, I need you to monitor the Devourer. Phasing cycles. Look for patterns. Sir, our nuclear missiles won't do much against ships that size, Blake warned. Maybe not, but let's find out. The Meridian undocked from the station and moved toward the battle. Compared to the massive alien ships, the human vessel looked tiny and fragile. But Jake had an advantage the aliens didn't understand. He wasn't trying to win a chess game. He was trying to hurt the enemy. no matter what it cost. Jake Morrison had seen enough. While the alien fleet retreated in perfect formation, abandoning thousands of civilians on the outer platforms, he made a decision that would change everything. Blake, target the nearest Devourer ship. Load nuclear missiles. Captain, our missiles will take 30 seconds to reach the target. They'll just phase out before impact. Dr. Grant looked up from her scanner. Wait, I'm seeing something in their phasing pattern. They can't stay phased for more than 40 seconds at a time. And when they come back into normal space, there's a 2-second delay before they can phase again. That's our window, Jake said. Blake, fire a spread pattern. 6 missiles, timed to arrive just as they phase back in. The Meridian launched its missiles, just as the Devourer ship phased out. The nuclear warheads streaked through empty space, while the alien fleet watched in confusion. The aliens clearly thought the humans had wasted their ammunition. 41 seconds later, the Devourer ship phased back into normal space. The nuclear missiles arrived exactly on target. The explosion was unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Human nuclear weapons didn't just create energy blasts, they created massive spheres of superheated plasma that expanded in all directions. The Devourer ship, caught solid in normal space, took the full force of the detonation. For the first time in the war, a Devourer ship was badly damaged. Its twisted hull was cracked and burning. Strange fluids leaked into space. The alien fleet stopped retreating. On every ship, crews stared at their sensors in disbelief. Admiral Zethkree's voice came over the communication channel. Meridian, how did you... Later, Jake cut him off. Right now, we have civilians to save. 3 more Devourer ships turned toward the Meridian. Jake could see them charging some kind of energy weapon. The human ship was vastly outnumbered and outgunned. Emma, signal the evacuation ships. Tell them to use our attack as cover and make their run for the jump point. Captain, the Devourers are targeting us, Blake reported. I can see that. Dr. Grant, can you predict when they'll phase? I think so. They seem to phase just before taking heavy damage. It's a defensive response. Jake smiled grimly. Then let's give them something to defend against. Blake, fire everything we have. Don't stop firing until we're out of ammunition. The Meridian opened up with every weapon on board. Nuclear missiles, plasma cannons, railguns, even the mining charges they used for asteroid surveys. The ship shook as the weapons fired continuously. The Devourer ships tried to phase, but Dr. Grant had predicted their timing perfectly. Every time they came back into normal space, more human weapons were waiting for them. The aliens watched in amazement as the tiny human ship fought like a cornered animal. But Jake knew they couldn't keep this up for long. The Meridian was taking heavy damage from the Devourer energy weapons. Hull breaches were being sealed by emergency systems. The engine was running at dangerous levels. Captain, we've lost main power to the weapon systems, Blake reported. On the main screen, Jake could see 2 Devourer ships moving in for the kill. Their energy cannons were charging for what would probably be the final shot. That's when the alien fleet finally acted. Admiral Zethkree's flagship, a massive crystal ship called the Star of Valdari, moved between the Meridian and the attacking Devourers. Its energy shields absorbed the enemy fire, while its own weapons opened up. All ships, protect the human vessel, Admiral Zethkree ordered. They have shown us how to fight these creatures. The battle changed completely. Instead of retreating and preserving their forces, the alien ships pressed forward. They began timing their attacks to match the Devourer phasing cycles, just like the humans had done. When the enemy ships tried to phase, they found alien weapons waiting for them on the other side. General Morthic's heavy cruiser rammed a damaged Devourer ship, something no alien commander had ever attempted before. The collision destroyed both vessels, but the general's sacrifice took out one of the enemy's most dangerous ships. Captain Morrison, Counselor Vex High's voice, came over the communication channel. We are evacuating the remaining civilians from the outer platforms. Can you assist? Jake looked at his damaged ship. They had no weapons left, and barely enough power to maintain life support, but there were still people trapped on the station platforms. Emma, take us to Platform 7. Blake, get down to the cargo bay and prepare to take on survivors. For the next hour, the Meridian made trip after trip between the battle zone and the evacuation ships. The little human vessel wasn't armed anymore, but it was fast and maneuverable. They rescued hundreds of aliens who would have been left behind. During one rescue run, Dr. Grant made an important discovery. Captain, I've been analyzing the Devourer technology. Their ships aren't just machines, they're partially organic. They can feel pain. What do you mean? When we damaged that first ship, it didn't just take hull damage. The ship actually screamed. I recorded it on the low-frequency sensors. These things are alive, at least partly. Jake thought about this as he watched the battle continue outside. The alien fleet was fighting better now, but they were still losing ships. The Devourers were adapting to the new tactics. If they can feel pain, then we can hurt them badly enough to make them retreat, he said. Captain, incoming message from Earth Command, Emma announced. Jake had almost forgotten about the message he'd sent to Earth 2 weeks ago. Put it through. Admiral Pete Johnson's face appeared on the screen. The head of Earth's Space Forces. Looked older than Jake remembered. Captain Morrison, we received your report about the alien contact and the Devourer threat. President Carter has authorized me to tell you that Earth is mobilizing its entire space fleet. Jake felt a surge of hope, sir. How long until reinforcements arrive? That's the thing, Captain. They're not coming to help you. They're coming to replace you. Admiral Johnson's expression was grim. The President has decided that if these Devourers are as dangerous as you described, then we need to take the threat seriously. We're sending every warship Earth has. What are your orders, sir? Make contact with this Galactic Council. Learn everything you can about Devourer technology and tactics. And Captain... Admiral Johnson paused. Make sure these aliens understand what they're asking for when they ask humans for help. The transmission ended. Jake looked at his crew. Dr. Grant was smiling despite the chaos around them. Commander Blake looked eager for a real fight. Emma was already working on a detailed report for the incoming Earth fleet. Outside, the battle was winding down. The Devourer fleet was retreating, but they had accomplished their goal. Kepler Station was badly damaged, and several alien ships had been destroyed. The aliens had fought better than before, but it still hadn't been enough. Admiral Zethkri's face appeared on the main screen. His 3 eyes looked tired but hopeful. Captain Morrison, the Council would like to meet with you formally. We need to discuss new strategies. I'll be there, Admiral. But first, let me ask you something. Are you ready to fight a real war? What do you mean? Jake looked out at the damaged station, the burning wreckage of alien ships, the survivors, being loaded into evacuation vessels. I mean a war where you don't retreat every time things get difficult. A war where you're willing to sacrifice ships and crews to hurt the enemy. A war where the goal isn't to preserve your forces, it's to destroy theirs completely. Admiral Zethkri was quiet for a long moment. Captain, such warfare would be... brutal. Many would die. Admiral, many are dying anyway. The difference is, my way might actually win. An hour later, Jake stood in the council chambers, facing representatives from 12 different alien species. They were the leaders of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, and they were asking a human for advice on how to fight a war. Counselor Vex High spoke first. Captain Morrison, we have reviewed the battle data. Your tactics were... effective, but they were also incredibly dangerous. You risked your ship and crew to save civilians you had never met. That's what humans do, Jake replied simply. General? Morthic, who had survived the collision with the Devourer's ship by evacuating to an escape pod, stepped forward. Captain, our military doctrine has served us well for thousands of years. We preserve our forces, we fight strategically, we minimize casualties. And how's that working for you, against the Devourers? The alien general's red eyes flashed with anger, but he didn't answer. Admiral Zethkri spoke up. Captain, what are you proposing? Jake looked around the chamber at the assembled alien leaders. These beings had technology that was centuries ahead of anything on Earth. They had fleets that could travel between stars in days. They had weapons that could destroy cities, but they had never learned how to be angry. I'm proposing that you let humans teach you how to fight a war you actually want to win, Jake said. Earth is sending our entire space fleet. When they get here, you'll see what human military doctrine looks like. And what does that look like? Counselor Vexai asked. Jake smiled, but there was no warmth in it. It looks like making the enemy hurt worse than they hurt you. It looks like being willing to lose everything to protect what matters. It looks like fighting so hard that the enemy never wants to fight you again. He paused, looking each alien leader in the eye. It looks like rage. 3 months after the Battle of Kepler Station, the human fleet arrived at Rigel Prime. What the aliens saw emerging from the jump point shocked them more than the Devourers ever had. The Earth ships were nothing like the elegant alien vessels. They were ugly, brutal machines built for one purpose: to destroy the enemy. The flagship USS Vengeance looked like a floating weapons platform covered in armor plating. Captain Lisa Chen commanded from a bridge that was buried deep inside the ship, protected by layers of metal and energy shields. Admiral Zethkri watched the human fleet with growing unease. Captain Morrison, these ships, they appear to be designed for suicide missions. Jake smiled. Not suicide missions, Admiral. Victory missions. There's a difference. Behind the Vengeance came destroyers, cruisers, and carriers. Every ship bristled with weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Nuclear missile launchers, railguns that could fire metal slugs at incredible speeds, and something the humans called planet crackers, weapons designed to split asteroids apart. Captain Tony Garcia commanded the destroyer squadron from his ship, the USS Fury. His vessels were smaller than the alien ships, but much faster. They could accelerate and change direction in ways that would kill most alien crews. Captain Sarah Brooks led the carrier group from the USS Relentless. Her ships launched fighter squadrons that flew in patterns no alien pilot would attempt. The human fighters moved like angry wasps, diving and weaving through defensive fire. Dr. Grant, now serving as Chief Science Officer for the entire human fleet, had spent months studying Devourer technology. Her reports made for disturbing reading. The Devourers aren't just destroying civilizations, she explained to the Joint Command meeting. They're feeding on them. They consume a specific type of energy that most species produce in small amounts. What kind of energy? Admiral Zethkri asked. Emotional energy. Fear, despair, hopelessness. The more terrified a species becomes, the more energy the Devourers can harvest from them. Counselor Vexai looked troubled. That would explain their tactics. They don't just attack military targets. They destroy civilian worlds first, to spread terror. Dr. Grant nodded. But here's the interesting part. Humans produce these energies at much higher levels than most species. But we also produce something else in large quantities, something that seems to be toxic to the Devourers. What? General Morthic asked. Rage, pure, focused anger. When humans get angry enough, we produce an emotional energy that actually hurts them. Jake looked at the assembled alien commanders. That's why your retreating strategy doesn't work. Every time you run away, you feed their power source. But when humans fight back with everything we have, we poison them. The meeting was interrupted by urgent alarms. The Devourer fleet had arrived at Rigel Prime ahead of schedule. Hundreds of the twisted black ships were moving toward the planet, where millions of aliens were trying to evacuate. Admiral Zethkri immediately began issuing orders for a defensive withdrawal. The alien ships would form protective formations around the evacuation transports and conduct a fighting retreat to the outer system. Captain Chen had other ideas. All human ships. This is vengeance actual. We're going in fast and hard. Target the biggest enemy ships first. Ignore your own safety. Focus on maximum damage to the enemy. Captain Chen, Admiral Zethkri protested. That's suicide. You'll be outnumbered 10-1. Admiral, with respect, your people have been running from these things for months. It's time to try something different. The human fleet accelerated toward the Devourer formation at maximum speed. The alien commanders watched in horror as the Earthships charged directly into the enemy's strongest position. Captain Garcia's destroyers hit first. The USS Fury and her sister ships fired everything they had: nuclear missiles, plasma torpedoes, railgun rounds. When their long-range weapons were exhausted, they kept flying straight at the enemy ships. Garcia to all destroyers. Tony's voice came over the communication channel. Remember, these things can feel pain. Let's give them something to feel. The USS Fury rammed a Devourer heavy cruiser at full speed, while detonating its own nuclear reactor. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface. The enemy ship didn't just take damage, it screamed across every communication frequency. Captain. Brooks launched her fighter squadrons into attacks that made the alien pilots sick to watch. Human fighters dove straight through Devourer defensive fields, their pilots accepting fatal radiation doses to get close enough for point-blank attacks. But it was the USS Vengeance that truly shocked the watching aliens. Captain Chen ordered her ship to fire every weapon at once. Nuclear missiles, plasma cannons, railguns, and experimental gravity bombs all launched simultaneously. The ship's entire energy output was channeled into the weapons, leaving life support running on backup power. Chen to all ships. Lisa's voice was calm despite the chaos around her. These things have been destroying worlds for months. Today we teach them that some worlds fight back. The Devourer ships tried their phasing tactics, but Dr. Grant had shared the timing data with the entire human fleet. Every time an enemy ship phased back into normal space, human weapons were waiting. More importantly, the human emotional state was affecting the Devourers in ways the aliens had never seen. The enemy ships began making mistakes, their coordination breaking down as the human rage interfered with their telepathic communications. All alien vessels, Captain Chen broadcast, stop running and start fighting. We've shown you their weakness. Now exploit it. Admiral Zethkri looked at the tactical display. Half the human fleet was already destroyed or badly damaged, but they had crippled twice as many Devourer ships. The enemy formation was in chaos. For the first time in months, the alien commander decided not to retreat. All council ships advanced to support the human fleet. Show these invaders what happens when they threaten our worlds. The alien ships moved forward, their crews inspired by the human example. They began using ramming attacks, overloading their own systems to cause maximum damage. Fighting with a fury they had never felt before, the battle became a slaughter, but not the kind the Devourers were used to. For months, they had fed on fear and despair from retreating enemies. Now they faced an emotion they had never encountered, species-level rage. Captain Garcia, commanding from an escape pod after his ship was destroyed, coordinated missile strikes from the remaining destroyers. Target their command ship. Everything we have left. The combined human and alien attack focused on the largest Devourer vessel. Nuclear warheads, plasma beams, and experimental weapons all struck within seconds of each other. The enemy flagship didn't just explode, it seemed to fold in on itself, reality bending around the massive release of energy. When the ship finally died, every other Devourer vessel in the system screamed at once. The sound was picked up by every communication system in the fleet, a wail of pain and rage that lasted for almost a minute. Then something unprecedented happened. The Devourer fleet retreated. For the first time since the war began, the ancient enemy had withdrawn from a battle they could have won. Their remaining ships phased out and jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind the wreckage of nearly half their force. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the badly damaged Vengeance, looking at the tactical display. Of the original human fleet, less than half remained operational. Thousands of human crew members had died in the past 4 hours, but they had won. Admiral Zethkri's face appeared on the main screen. His 3 eyes were wide with something between admiration and terror. Captain Chen, your losses. I am sorry. Lisa looked at him calmly. Admiral, this is what victory costs. Your people have been unwilling to pay that price. That's why you've been losing. Dr. Grant's voice came over the communication channel from her science vessel. Captain, I'm reading massive energy fluctuations from the Devourer wreckage. They're not just machines. The organic components are still alive, and they're in agony. Good, Chen replied without emotion. Maybe the survivors will remember that feeling the next time they think about attacking a human world. The joint fleet spent the next several hours rescuing survivors and securing the wreckage. The alien crews were stunned by what they had witnessed. The humans had lost more ships in one battle than the Council had lost in the entire war. But they had achieved something the aliens thought impossible. They had made the Devourers afraid. General Morthic's surviving heavy cruiser pulled alongside the Vengeance. The alien warrior's red eyes glowed with new understanding as he spoke to Captain Chen. Captain, I owe you an apology. When I first met your Captain Morrison, I called humans primitive. I said you knew nothing of war. And now? Chen asked. Now I understand. We knew war as a game of strategy and tactics. You know war as a force of nature. You fight like the universe itself is angry. Captain Chen looked out at the debris field where so many human ships had died. General, the universe isn't angry. We are, and we just taught the Devourers the difference. 5 years after the Battle of Rigel Prime, Fleet Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the massive space station, New Terra. Through the reinforced windows, he could see the human shipyards working around the clock. The ships being built now made the old USS Vengeance look like a toy. The war against the Devourers was over. It had taken 3 more years of brutal fighting, but humanity had led the galaxy to complete victory. The ancient enemy had been hunted down system by system, their organic ships destroyed, their feeding grounds burned clean. Dr. Grant, now director of xenobiological research, approached him with a data tablet. Admiral, the final report is ready. Jake took the tablet and read through the statistics. The numbers were staggering. The human casualty rate throughout the war had been 68%. Of the original Earth fleet that had answered the galaxy's call for help, fewer than 1 in 3 crew members had survived to see the end. But they had won. More than won. They had eliminated the Devourer threat completely. Any word from the council meeting? Jake asked. Lisa sighed. The same as always. They're grateful for our help, but they want us to reduce our military presence. They say the war is over, so we don't need so many armed ships. Jake almost laughed. The aliens still didn't understand. They thought the war was something that had ended, like a storm that had passed. They didn't realize that humanity had become something different during those years of fighting. Earth's population had grown to nearly 15 billion, with colonies on dozens of worlds throughout the galaxy. Human technology had advanced rapidly, combining their own innovations with captured Devourer science. Most importantly, humans had learned that they were very, very good at war. Captain Tony Garcia arrived on the observation deck, still wearing the uniform of a destroyer commander, despite his promotion to System Defense Coordinator. He had survived the war by being too stubborn to die, even when his ship was destroyed around him 3 separate times. Admiral, we've got visitors, Tony said. The Council is sending a formal delegation. They want to discuss demilitarization protocols. Jake looked out at the shipyards again. The new vessels under construction were not exploration ships or cargo haulers. They were pure warships, designed to fight enemies that didn't exist yet. Humanity was preparing for threats that might not emerge for decades or centuries. Let them come, Jake said. It's time we had an honest conversation. 2 days later, the Council delegation arrived at New Terra. Admiral Zethkri led the group, along with Counselor Vexhai and General Morthic. They had aged visibly during the war years, their faces marked by the stress of leading their species through near extinction. The meeting took place in the station's main conference room. The alien delegates sat on one side of the table, while Jake was joined by Dr. Grant, Captain Garcia, and President Helen Carter, who had flown out from Earth personally. Admiral Zethkri spoke first. Admiral Morrison, the Council wishes to express our eternal gratitude for humanity's role in defeating the Devourers. Your sacrifice saved countless worlds. Thank you, Admiral, Jake replied, but I sense there's more you want to discuss. Counselor Vexhai leaned forward. Admiral, the war is over. The galaxy is at peace. Many Council members feel that the current level of human military expansion is ... concerning. President Carter smiled politely. Concerning in what way, Counselor? Madam President, humanity now operates more warships than the rest of the galaxy combined. Your colonies are expanding at an unprecedented rate. Some species feel threatened by this rapid growth. Captain Garcia couldn't help himself. Threatened. We just saved their entire civilization. General Morthic nodded respectfully to Garcia. Captain, no one questions human bravery or sacrifice. But your military doctrine is still based on total warfare. Some wonder what happens when humanity decides another species is a threat. Jake stood up and walked to the conference room window. Outside, a massive battleship was being launched from the primary shipyard. The vessel was 3 times larger than anything humanity had possessed during the Devourer War. General, let me ask you something, Jake said. How many Devourer survivors do you think are still out there? Our intelligence suggests that all major Devourer forces were eliminated. Perhaps a few scout ships remain, but they pose no significant threat. Jake turned back to face the alien delegates. Dr. Grant's research suggests otherwise. Lisa, Dr. Grant activated a holographic display showing a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked known Devourer activity during the war. We destroyed their main fleets and their primary breeding worlds. But the Devourers had been spreading throughout the galaxy for millions of years. There could be dormant populations on thousands of worlds we've never even discovered. Additionally, she continued, our analysis of their technology suggests they weren't the only species using organic mechanical hybridization. There may be other threats out there that we haven't encountered yet. Admiral Zethkri looked troubled. Are you saying the danger isn't over? I'm saying that for 5 million years. Your civilizations lived in peace because you didn't know about the threats that surrounded you, Jake replied. The Devourers were just the first. There are things moving in the dark between galaxies that make the Devourers look like children. President Carter opened a file on her tablet. Last month, our deep space monitoring stations detected energy signatures from the Andromeda galaxy that matched Devourer technology. Something is stirring out there, and it's much larger than anything we faced in this galaxy. The alien delegates exchanged worried glances. Counselor Vexhai spoke quietly. What are you suggesting? We're suggesting that the galaxy needs protectors, Jake said. Permanent protectors. Species that are willing to fight wars, that civilized people don't want to think about. General Morthic's red eyes flashed with understanding. You're talking about becoming a warrior culture. Permanently. General, we already are a warrior culture. The Devourer War didn't change humanity. It revealed what we always were. Every human child learns about the war in school. Every human adult knows that peace is something you have to fight for. Captain Garcia pulled up another display showing human colony worlds. Our colonies aren't just settlements, they're forward military bases. Every human world can defend itself and support military operations. We're not expanding because we want more territory. We're expanding because the galaxy needs defenders in every system. Dr. Grant added, human emotional patterns have proven uniquely effective against organic technological threats. Our rage, our fury, our willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. These aren't just useful tactics. They're weapons that work against enemies other species can't even hurt. Admiral Zethkri was quiet for a long moment. Admiral Morrison, what you're describing sounds like military occupation of the galaxy. Jake sat back down at the table. Admiral, let me tell you what military occupation looks like. Military occupation is when the occupying force takes resources, enslaves populations, and rules through fear. Is that what humanity is doing? No, the alien admiral admitted. Human colonies trade freely with alien worlds. You've shared technology and medical advances. You've protected our shipping lanes from pirates. Then what we're offering isn't occupation. It's protection. President Carter leaned forward. The Council can accept our protection, or they can try to provide their own. But either way, humanity will continue building ships and training soldiers, because we know what's coming. Counselor Vexai asked the question they were all thinking. What if the Council votes to restrict human military expansion? The room went very quiet. Captain Garcia's hand moved unconsciously toward his sidearm. Dr. Grant stopped taking notes. President Carter's expression never changed, but something cold entered her eyes. Jake answered very softly, Counselor, I hope the Council doesn't make that mistake. Are you threatening us, Admiral? No, sir. I'm educating you. The Council exists because humanity allows it to exist. Your worlds are safe because human fleets patrol the space between them. Your children sleep peacefully because human soldiers stand watch in the dark. Jake stood up again, and this time, the alien delegates seemed to shrink away from him. The universe was desperate when it called for our help. We answered with rage, and that rage saved every living thing in this galaxy. Now that rage stands guard over civilization itself. You can work with us, or you can get out of our way, but you cannot stop us. General Morthic suddenly began laughing. It was a harsh, barking sound that made the other aliens jump. Do you know what I find funny about all this? What, General? Jake asked. 5 years ago, we thought humans were primitive because you fought with nuclear weapons and suicide attacks. We called you barbarians because you were willing to die to protect strangers. Now we're asking you to become less barbaric, less willing to fight, less protective. The alien warrior's red eyes gleamed with dark humor. We're asking our guardians to stop being guardians. Admiral Zethkri sighed deeply. General Morthic is correct. The Council has no right to ask humanity to disarm after everything you've sacrificed for us. Thank you, Admiral, President Carter said. But understand, we're not doing this for the Council anymore. We're doing it because it's necessary. Dr. Grant closed her tablet. The next threat is already on its way. Our deep space sensors have detected massive energy buildups in 17 different galaxies. Something is waking you.